Hey folks, so I'm just getting ready to call it for the night out here in the shop. I feel like a wimp because it's like 8:15, I think, 8:13, and I was just talking about in another video where we made this little guy about the difference between a vacuum chamber and a pressure pot. So we use those for resin cast, at least I do. Use it for resin casting. The vacuum chamber, it's not so much as you absolutely have to have one. Pressure pot, if you can afford one and you're doing stuff small to fit in one, absolutely 100% recommend. It will save you a ton of work and effort in air bubbles. I mainly use my vacuum chamber anymore to help get rid of air bubbles, stuff like that in resin, or stuff like this, or even, I think I had one over here. I'm one table short. But I also use it for these guys. I'll dunk this in mineral oil, just drop it in. I'll pull a vacuum. It pulls all the air out, and then when you release the air vacuum and the air rushes back in, it actually forces the oil deep into whatever you have in there. With resin, it'll actually pull all the air bubbles out. It almost makes it look like it's boiling because it technically is. And then once you put everything, so it'll pull everything out. When you release the pressure, it puts everything back in. And then that's it. It sounds super simple. It really is a simple operation, but I was getting ready to drop this butter spreader in my pressure pot with mineral oil. So, and I just happened to remember about these honey dippers. So I was like, you know what? Let's just do them all. Oh, honey dipper and muddler. I'm trying a different style for muddlers too. So yeah, I'm getting ready to jump inside, and I think I've got everything ready to go in there. So if it is, we are going to get these in oil. And yeah, so we'll show you guys how all that stuff works because I find it fascinating. And then, yeah, I'm also trying to make this seem a lot easier for what I do because it's really not that hard, especially resin casting. I know a lot of people are nervous with it. You don't necessarily need a pressure pot or anything like that too. They are nice to have, but if you know what you're doing and you mix stuff right, you really don't need it. But it is a great thing to have. Because I don't know if anybody's ever seen air bubbles in resin, but it can ruin a piece. And yeah, I do. It's like I feel like I got some stuff I've casted over here, but it's a little dusty because I haven't taken care of it yet. But this is going to be an egg with some red Malay burl and a green base that I made previously because I don't know why. This one I probably had some extra resin and poured in a bunch. But yeah, so this will actually get turned down into an egg. I've also got the little angel blanks where I 3D print the angels out. And then I forgot, I've tried a couple different things for mounting them in the middle because it doesn't really matter once you do the pour over the top. But those all do go in the pressure pot because they're super small and I can fit a bunch of them in there. And it really does, it's an easy way just to make sure you don't get too many air pockets in it, which is why when I pull them out, they're almost always crystal clear. So, and the pressure pot, the vacuum chamber doesn't help or doesn't hurt to do that either if you have it. But again, it's not necessary. And the true poor man, I just want to try this out and see if it's something I enjoy before I invest in tools. Grab some isopropyl alcohol, spray over the top out of any spray bottle. Sorry I keep moving around, but you guys are loose in my hand today. But just a regular spray bottle like that, full of isopropyl alcohol. It'll coat whatever, or you just light coat on the top. And then it'll actually, as crazy as it sounds, as soon as it touches resin with air bubbles, it pops them instantly. You can also use a torch or a heat gun. Torches, be very careful. Not only is it open flame, but if you're using any type of silicone mold, it can actually ruin the molds. And if you heat them up too much, which is why I don't like doing it. I do have a heat gun that I use for that as well. It's a lot easier on the silicone, helps stuff last a bit longer, and I also use it out on the lathe, which is where I use it the most. But yeah, so that's enough of me yakking. Let's run inside and get this stuff in oil, and I'll show you guys some boiling oil from low air pressure. Hey, while I'm thinking about it, so did you guys know that you can support me for not spending a cent by hitting the like button, subscribing, and sharing my videos? Doesn't cost you a cent. Helps the algorithm see me a whole lot more, and it's totally free for you. It just takes 3 clicks. Just wanted to throw that out there. Thanks. Bye. Fun fact, it's also why we have to wear spacesuits at high altitude, even if there's enough oxygen. If it's at a low enough pressure, all the fluids in your body actually boil. All right. And there you can see we've got a couple of my honey dippers already in there. Sorry, I thought I saw something weird. So yeah, that's the last of the mini honey dippers I'm probably ever gonna make, because people seem to prefer the bigger ones. So if you want some smaller ones, grab them while you can. I don't know, if enough people ask for them, I'll make more, but for right now, I'm not planning on doing it for a while. So when I do these, I always like to put the dipper ends down first, because it is a lot easier to control. Or I'm sorry, there's a lot more surface area, and for what I want to show you guys, I want to make this look as cool as possible. I need to grab a flashlight and turn on a pump here, which is on the other side of my table, and I can't reach it from where I'm standing. All right. There's our vacuum going, if you can hear it. And if you can't, well, sorry. All right. Now I have this open so it won't actually pull anything. I'm gonna try to get this where you guys can see the most without actually. Over the years I've been using this, the glass lid's gotten pretty nasty on the inside. But now vacuum is pulling. We're going down, well, up. And there we go. There's the air bubbles working their way out. That looks better. So this chamber gets almost down to a full vacuum too. It's kind of crazy with how efficient it is. But yeah, so now all I'm doing is watching those bubbles, because I don't want it to overflow in there, because it will make a mess. And mineral oil is expensive. But yep. So we'll do this. And this is how I actually get pretty much anything that I say I've saturated with oil. Rather than let it sit for a couple of days, I can do it in the matter of about 15-20 minutes usually. I'm not going to go through the full process here with you guys, because it's literally this, and I just do it 4 or 5 times until these bubbles go away. So I'm kind of watching to see how high they're getting, because as soon as it hits a point, I'm actually going to release the vacuum and put air pressure back in there. For anyone interested, we are currently sitting at about negative 26, 27, 28. Oh, sorry, those are half marks. It's been a minute since I've read vacuum gauge. We are at 27, I think it's inches of, I forget what HG is. All right, but see, now you can see how we're starting to work our way up a little bit. I'm gonna let it go for about another 5 to 10 seconds. We're getting close, so I'm gonna put a little air back in. You can see how I push it right back down. And all that does is, like I said, is let the vacuum out and lets air in, because it's trying to pull everything into it. Which, yeah, I just found another pen kit like I was looking for. Thought I had one more. Unfortunately, those ones aren't for sale to anybody because they've been discontinued. Yay! And I really like them. And I've never found a stainless steel pen that I like that's nice and heavy, so sorry. I only got a handful of them before they disappeared. And you can see on the, I'd say by the start-stop button, but you guys won't see that. But on one side of the screen, which I believe should be the right if this recorded properly, and if not, when I go to edit it, I will make sure it's the right side. How it's actually getting wet without ever having any of that oil directly over it. That's actually because the wood's pulling it up through the wood itself the way it would with when the tree's alive with sap. Because that wood's just a bunch of fibers that are just like straws that moves the sap up and down, which is how the tree gets its nutrients to where it needs to go and all that fun stuff. Forgive me if I sound like a boring science professor, but I actually do find how trees work very interesting. And we are currently sitting at negative 28 on the inches of HG. Excuse me while I ask Siri. What is the element HG?
The answer I found is HG.
Oh, it's mercury. I should have known that. So that's inches of mercury, which is how they do the vacuum pressure. Say at 30 inches of mercury, it's a perfect vacuum, and it is actually impossible to get to. Even in space, it has a little bit of positive pressure, so it's not a perfect vacuum out there either. Just another fun fact of the day that's not so dark. But yeah, so it kind of looks like it's at a steady rolling boil now. So what I'm going to do just to help speed this up, we're going to actually completely let the vacuum out, and I'm actually going to stop the vacuum from pulling. I have two ball valves that I can control to do all this with, which is how I'm doing everything. I'm not going to let the full vacuum out. I'm going to hold a little bit of vacuum to it. Now we're just going to start pulling again. And after this round, I'm going to actually cut it out. It shouldn't take as long, and it's not going to get near as bubbly this time. So 17 inches of mercury. We're still pulling vacuum. There's 20 inches of mercury. The most I've seen this one get to was 29 and a half, or 28 and a half, almost 29. There's 24 inches of mercury right there. We're still not getting any new bubbles. And it might not bubble up at all if I did this right, but I'm starting to see them pop up now. Usually I do this without my phone in the way, and it's kind of hard to see on here. So yeah, we're getting a little bit out of there. That's a 27. They're still pulling. And it might be negative 32. That's a perfect vacuum. If my numbers might be off a little bit, but as you get less air pressure in there, it does slow down a lot. And we're back up to 27 inches of mercury, which is the equivalent of negative 27 psi, by the way, if memory serves right. There we go. We're getting some more bubbles out. I hope you guys find this as fascinating as I do, because I absolutely love doing this kind of thing, just because I also understand the physics of everything that's going on and just what I'm subjecting this wood to, which is why it'll sit on paper towels for a couple days after this, just to get all the oil that's absorbed out of it just from being at room temperature. It'll come out for weeks. Which is why if I have a fresh batch, sometimes I'll give it to you wrapped up in a paper towel. And when I will also give the warning, if I do that, to don't be surprised if it takes a little bit of time to not feel super oily. Just wipe it down, keep it in fresh paper towels. You can even run it run it under hot water to help get some of that oil off it. But when it gets super deep in there, like what we're doing here, you won't get a better protection than what this can do. Well, maybe if I had molten board butter that I put in there, but then I'm running the risk of letting it cool down, and then I got to reheat all that. All right. I'm going to let all the air out. We're back in. I got the vacuum pulled or shut off, so we're just doing this with pure air. And then when we go in to cover the pressure pot, I'm just going to let this thing run for a bit, because it's at the point of it won't overflow anything, so we'll let it do its thing. What I'm hoping to see is that the butter spreader I just made drop is what I want to see, because then I know it's full of oil. That's why those 2 honey dippers that are in there that have already gotten the vacuum treatment are just laying flat on the bottom. So I'm going to let this run while we cover the pressure pot, and then we'll be back to check on this, and then we'll call it. Quick aside on the vacuum chamber as well. When you open everything up, if it's not pulling a vacuum, just lean on it real quick. Usually that's all it takes. There we go. All I did was put a little pressure with a hand down on it. Just one of those helpful little tricks I figured out over the years. And that's the bottom of a well-used pressure pot. It is concave, so it dips down to help, because with pressure vessels, you do never want anything sharp-cornered, 90 degrees, stuff like that. But when I'm using it, don't mind my messy office. I'm in the process of cleaning it up in here. But so what you would do is, and I'm not actually going to pressure this one up. So say my cup of pens here, sorry, bucket of pens. I love those little Lowe's buckets too. I'd like to get a couple more of them if I can find them. But then you just drop your lid on, make sure it seats, and you got a bunch of these wing nuts. When you're putting them on, the first two you usually fight with you a little bit. Then you just pop these two on, crank it down. And usually you'd already have this on the floor, not a chair, but in here I don't have room to put it on the floor because, like I said, organizing. But then you would take a air compressor line, pop on there, open that up to fill it. There's your pressure gauge there. This one will cut off at 40 psi, which admittingly is low for what these can do. I haven't been able to figure out how to. It's supposed to be adjustable because I'd like to keep it around 60, but every time I adjust it, it don't do nothing. It always kicks off at 40 because it is super cheap. But it is what it is. Hasn't let me down yet, so I just deal with a little bit of lower pressure and I let it go. But I don't want to forget where I put my pens off my desk. And I want my chair, so. Had some junk on the bottom. Didn't know that. But yeah, so that's the difference between pressure pots and vacuum chambers. If you were ever at all curious, there it is. And if you weren't or had no idea there was a difference, now you know. Like I say, really you don't need either to be able to get into any type of resin casting. But if you have a choice or have to choose between the two, pressure pot all day long. It will make your casts so much better with so much little work. Like when I throw them in there, I don't even work. I still do the isopropyl alcohol spray just because, I have a bunch for the 3D printers and stuff because it's how I have to clean some of that stuff. Especially some of the resin prints, I actually have to put them in a vat of isopropyl alcohol. I totally blanked out on that name. I thought I had a bunch of angels here. But yeah, a lot of times I'll use them for the little thing, or the little guys, or even the old card holders I used to make, which card holders. This one was done with filament though, so it doesn't really count. And if you can't tell, I was playing around with, that should all be green on that side, blue on that side. I was playing around twisting it. I play a lot. As if you guys didn't already know. But yeah, so I'm gonna let that pressure or vacuum chamber run a little bit longer, and we're gonna see if our little butter spreader is dropped. Hopefully it has, because I think I'm gonna play with that later tonight. So with that, I will say cat in the hat. That be that. Hopefully this wasn't too boring for y'all. Have a good one. And as previously promised, folks, I've left this sit for actually about 2 hours. Now we're just going to throw this air pressure back in, and we'll see what we get. And I did do a little digging on that butter spreader, and That's definitely the wrong size. So I can't get away with my mini laser like I was hoping. I'm going to speed this up a little bit. See that butter spreader dropping? Alright, that means it's still got a little bit of air left in it because but the blade part is down. So I think we're gonna pull one more vacuum on this before I call it at night, and then yeah. But we're not going any more into that today, so that there is the difference between pressure pot and vacuum chamber and their different uses. With that, I will say cat in the hat, dappy dap. Happy making, folks. Be safe. Have a good one.